Raufeon Stots, first of all, thank you so much for being here today. We are just a couple of days away now from Bellator 289, and things between you and Danny have kind of gotten very heated, very serious. I was watching you two kind of go at it with one another. So I want to ask you first and foremost, how are you feeling heading into this fight against Danny?
I'm feeling as confident as always. I don't feel like I have to do anything different in this fight, and I feel like Danny sucks as a martial artist, so I'm feeling pretty confident.
So, okay, because here's the thing. Like, I was watching you guys pretty much, I was hearing him call you a bitch and all of these things. And it was just this very, very heated back and forth. Given how, you've been making an impressive run, you've been undefeated, you've been getting those wins. When you see a competitor across from you go this direction in terms of name calling and all of that, what does that tell you about that person?
That's one of the reasons I don't like him, and it just tells me that I feel like he's just a sour person. You know what I'm saying? A sour person from the inside, and he just outwardly projects that to kind of everybody he sees. And that's not something I can align with. That's not something I can respect. Like he's a person that if he was like in a sticky situation or not so great situation, he would just spew hate to everybody, that he feels like is doing better than him or in better position than him. And yeah, that's just not the type of people I like, man.
It's definitely interesting because it's like I feel like for the most part, like if you're heading into a fight, there's already this huge
Yeah.
competitive nature because you're so determined to get this win. Like you either go in there and you win or you don't, right? It's very serious. But then you have this added layer of now there's this beef between you guys. So I do want to ask you, what's your mentality like heading into this fight?
I feel like this fight is probably the closest fight that I've been to, like uh it being personal. Um, I just feel like for me, I'm enjoying the fact because I like to talk shit, you know what I mean? And I like to talk shit because it just like kind of heightens the stakes, heightens the stakes, you know what I'm saying? Because we said a lot of shit, so now you gotta bag it up, and I'm always down to, see that's what excites me about fighting is like you say you better than me, you say you're gonna whoop my ass, I say I'm gonna whoop your ass, let's see, let's find out, and I relish in that let's find out space. Um, but yeah, so I'm just excited, to get in there with him because he's been talking a lot, and now I get to prove all that. So as far as like how I approach this fight, like mentally, um, I feel like it just added a little more stakes for me, and which is which is actually helpful for me for like training the monotonous things I have to do, like when I gotta hit the bag or run or do like the extra things, that are not usually needed, but are good for like mentality. I think that's it's helpful for that.
That's really cool. And here's the thing, because clearly whatever you're doing is definitely working because, you've had what, 18 wins, one loss, but in your professional debut in Bellator, you've been undefeated. You have been nonstop. So I want to ask you, being part of Bellator and then getting to show the world, your skills and getting all of these wins and being undefeated, what does that mean to you to be able to do this at such a high level?
I said this when I first got to Bellator. I thought me signing with Bellator was a step, or it was a start of something great, And the reason I signed with Bellator is with like how they treat their fighters, the $1 million tournament. I see them do cross promotion things. And yeah, I just feel like it was like an amazing organization, and they were like heading in the direction of doing $1 million tournament. So for me to do everything that I set out to do here in Bellator and be in the position I'm in now, it's just it's super gratifying, it's almost like if I'm digging a hole, I've been digging a hole for 7 years, digging a hole, and I finally look up, and I'm surrounded by like gold, you know what I mean? I'm just grateful for where I'm at in the company.
And that too, because I feel like when you're going, like you mentioned, this is the start of something new, start of something bigger, you're propelling onto that next level in your career. When you first joined Bellator, what was your like assumptions? Did you think like, oh man, like here we go, I got all this new competition? Or did you already kind of know like deep within you, you know what, I've got what it takes and nothing's gonna hold me down?
Yeah, when I came into Bellator, I knew that I was championship material. I just knew I had to perform and be given the right opportunities. So yeah, coming into Bellator, I knew there were a lot of like tough challenges, but like I don't like when people look at challenges, I look at them as like opportunities, So like I was like I'm excited, to put my resolve to the test, you know what I mean? So yeah, I was just excited to get the opportunity to compete and challenge myself against a lot of these top competitors.
So let's get into this tournament because it's been a pretty big deal. And on top of that, you kind of had this like extra, I don't know what you want to call it, but this extra responsibility of having to defend the Interim Bantamweight Championship. So I want to ask you, what has that road been like for you? And obviously heading into the semis, if you win this, you now are getting closer and closer to that $1 million. Like, seriously, like even just thinking about it right now, like
Right.
what's running through your mind, right? Like $1 million. I would kill to be in your position.
Right?
You can't fight for shit, but
Sad opportunity, right? Yeah.
yeah.
no, I feel like, and that's another one of those things. Like, so the belt, the $1 million, those are things that will happen, but I have to win for those to happen. So I don't necessarily like focus on those. Like, oh, I'm defending the belt. Like, no, my job is to go out here and beat Danny's ass. You know what I mean? If I take care of that, if I train like I'm supposed to beat Danny's ass, like the rest of that stuff will come. Just like the last fight, I didn't even think about the belt until like they wrapped it around my waist, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, like, there's a belt involved. And that's kind of how I approach like, I'm approaching all these fights. Like, I have to win the fights. None of the million, the championship, the like opportunities outside, like none of that happens unless I whoop ass. I gotta, beat him up. So yeah, I don't even like the belt now. I think the belt is in my room. I don't see it every day. It's not something that I'm like, oh, I have a responsibility to like. That's like, kind of far back in my mind. Like my goal is to just beat him up.
I do kind of like that because I do think that like mentality of, what, this is the task at hand and I can't celebrate all these other things without first doing this major,
Yeah,
major portion. I feel
yeah.
like that is part of why I can see you being, so successful thus far in Bellator is literally because of the way you're like, you're separating everything and being
Yeah.
like,
And
okay.
it also it makes everything like simple. I feel like a lot of people when they think about the grand scheme of things, like doing just like if somebody had to run a marathon, if you have to run a marathon and you think about all the miles and all the stops and stuff that you have to do, and instead think about just every step or a mile at a time. You know what I mean? It's easier to compartmentalize and like accomplish small goals to get to the goal, the bigger goal at hand.
Exactly. So have you thought about what you would do if you win the entire thing?
I have thought about that. The first thing I want to buy is my family has like a plot of land, and it's got like a dingy little house on it that's been built in like 19 freaking 50 or something. It's like a shack, and we like fix it up, but I want to build a nice house kind of for everybody to come and like have family events, reunions, Thanksgivings and Christmases and stuff. That's what I want to do.
Oh, I love that. That's very nice, especially getting into the holiday season. I mean, obviously, it's still so soon, but still,
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Hey, next holidays,
I-
we'll see what happens next holidays.
yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you because I do want to get a little bit into your background because you literally made the transition from collegiate wrestling into MMA, and there are a lot of guys that do that, but they don't all see the same results, the same success. For you, what do you attribute that to?
So I attribute mine to the coaches. The coaches I've had. I started my first coach in MMA, like just starting out, was the first UFC champion, Jens Pover. So I didn't like there wasn't a lot of fluff or extra things I had to like kind of learn or forget. You know what I mean? I didn't have to. I kind of like got to cut corners to like all the good stuff right away. So then after that, I had Pat Miletich, who is a multiple time champion of coach of champions in the UFC. And then also I had Duke Rufus, or I moved from Pat Miletich to Duke Rufus, who was also, champions of many Bellator champions, along with other UFC champions. And just they had like formulas to win, and proven formulas to win. So I attribute a lot of it to my coaches and my training partners in the schools I've been a part of.
Walk us through some of that. Like, what does your camp look like? What does your training look like ahead of any sort of major fight that you're going through?
Yeah, so my training is pretty close to like my training outside of camp. My training in camp is like pretty close to the training outside of camp, but I just do like a little more cardio and kind of opponent specific things, afterwards. So I'm steadily like growing as a martial artist. I'm training in the morning from like 9:30 to like 2 o'clock, or probably 1:30 to 2 o'clock. Of like I'm hitting pads, I'm grappling, I'm doing some cardio, I'm doing like extra things like shadow boxing and stuff like that. And then I come back at night and then I train more. I'll probably do like hard rounds or sparring or Shark Tanks when everybody come in on me. I just do that kind of all through the week, from Monday to Friday. And then Saturday I get like one training session in the morning, and then I chill with my family for the rest of the day. And then Sunday I rest. So that's kind of like what my week kind of looks like. I train like 2 to 3 times a day, and then or most likely two times a day, and then on the weekends I train once.
Man, that is crazy. Like, just thinking of your schedule and how much of yourself you really have to give each and every single day to build yourself, as a competitor. It's kind of crazy. Now, I do want to ask you also, kind of going back to the wrestling stuff. Do
Yeah.
you think, as a former wrestler, being in the tournament style, do you think that benefits you, having, been used to that already?
Yeah, and that's another reason why I signed with Bellator. I like the tournaments because like tournaments, there's no like politics. There's no like, oh, he was ranked here, so he shouldn't fight him yet, or like, oh, he got more followers than him, so he ain't gonna fight here. It's like whoever wins moves on. And that's kind of how wrestling was, or that's how wrestling was. Like, if you beat this guy, you move on to the next guy in the tournament. And then also for the mindset of like, you got to focus on this guy. Like, don't focus on the championship or the final. Like, okay, the best guy is on the other side. If you're seeded number 1 or number 2, the other guy's on the other side. You can't focus on him. You got to focus on one opponent at a time, one match at a time. 1 minute at a time. And I think I thrive in those situations. Obviously, I'm a 2-time national champion in wrestling, so I'm pretty used to winning big tournaments.
Yeah, and I like that too because it's very straightforward. Like you said, you either move on or you don't. You're either in or you're out. It's very, very simple. Simple in the concept, right? Not in the actual doing of it. So I do want to ask you, because obviously you've been defending the title, but you still have the interim thrown in there as bantamweight champion, interim bantamweight champion. So I do want to ask you, if you win this tournament, do you think that the interim should be removed and that you should be the official bantamweight champion?
I don't. The current champion is my old teammate, or my teammate, Sergio Pettis, and I believe he still has claim to the champion. I feel that I am a separate champion. I don't feel like I'm a interim champion. I feel like I am a separate champion. But just because I'll be, by the time the tournament is over, I would have defended it 2 times, and I think Serge only defended it once. So I feel like I am a champion, but I do feel like Serge is like, he's a champion also, So yeah, I don't really care about the interim like deal. Like, okay, yeah, like I'm the interim and he's the undisputed. Like, but I definitely believe that I'm world champ caliber, and it should be sold as like a champ versus champ thing.
I like that. I like that. Champ versus champ. I like that too because it's almost like you don't want to take away from what that person did to get, to get the gold. Now you're just like, let's add on top of
Yeah,
that because,
exactly,
I'm starting to prove myself,
exactly.
with or without the interim, I'm proving myself, period. So let's meet together and kind of make it
Exactly.
stronger, right? That sort of thing.
Grand scheme of things, I feel like, or for me and Serge, like I don't want to fight Serge, but like if we have to fight, teammate, or if I have to fight an old teammate, I feel like after the tournament, it would be more beneficial for both of us. Like, I guess my name wasn't as known, before I had the interim belt, and I went on this run. And his name is pretty known. Like he's Pettis, he's Sergio Pettis. He had amazing knockouts and amazing performances throughout his career. So like now, I feel like my name kind of stacks up with him, so they'll be able to sell it as a bigger fight. So yeah.
I agreed. Looking at the bigger picture. I like that. So I do want to go ahead and ask you one final question before we move on to our lightning round. So with that being said, my question for you here is, um, goals. I like to ask this question to
Yeah.
all the people I interview because especially now this time period, I feel like we start to think about our goals even more because it's the end of the year. We're starting this new year. For you, like I see this big smile on your face. What are your goals, like short term and even long term, within Bellator, with or even outside of Bellator?
Yeah. So my short-term goal is to just completely dismantle Danny Sabatello. That's like the short-term goal, like this next week, next Friday. And then after that, I want to win this $1 million tournament. And then like establish, like $1 billion. And then I just want to like help like the goal is to make sure my family has generational wealth.
Yes.
That's like a goal outside of fighting. I want to make sure my kids and my wife are good, and uh, if I was to leave this earth, like they'd have means to be successful. And then also my extended family. I want everybody to have means, and just like wealth beyond living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. You nailed it right there with generational wealth. That is something that, it's hard to come by, right? It's hard to
Yeah.
come by, but if you put in the work, you just never know what's going to happen. Let's do this Q&A. It's going to be 10 questions, 10 super random ones, and you just answer them however you please. So here we go. Question number 1, who has been your toughest fight?
Oh, my toughest fight. I would say it was Magomedov.
Nice. How would you say that was your toughest fight?
You said
What, like why? Yeah.
just because it was like a high stakes fight. I feel like it brought a lot of eyes on the bantamweight division, and kind of like jump started the bantamweight tournament. And then also, he had a lot of he's a Dagestani. He's in the tournament now. He's on the other side of the tournament, and he had a lot of people regarded him as like the best guy outside of the UFC. So that was a good win for me to have.
Question number 2, what social media app are you most addicted to?
Probably Instagram.
Aren't we all? Question number 3, what songs or artists get you the most pumped when you're working out?
I like Burna Boy and Wizkid. When I'm or no, I'll say Burna Boy and 2 Chainz.
Nice.
But I also like some gutter shit every now and then.
Question number 4, do you have any pre or post fight rituals?
I don't. My ritual actually is that something is gonna be different. Something's always gonna be different.
Question number 5, when cutting weight, how do you stay disciplined?
I just stay focused on like the task at hand, and I realize, or I keep in mind that this is only for a short time, and also uh some of my paycheck is counting on me to make this weight.
You're like, just keep thinking about that. Got my money on my mind.
Right.
Question number 6, how do you celebrate your wins?
I usually I'll have a couple drinks, and I'll just eat until my heart is content. This after this one, I'm a drink. gonna turn up. I'm probably gonna turn.
Do you have like a go-to, like when it comes to food where you're like, this is what I was craving the
Yeah.
entire week?
So I'm gonna get jambalaya, because jambalaya is like something that I'm always craving at all time. But since Thanksgiving just passed, my wife made a mango cobbler, and I'm gonna ask her to make that again after this fight, because I couldn't. Oh, I ate like a bite or whatever, but I couldn't really eat because I had to cut weight.
She's like, yeah, you know what? If you win,
Right,
I'll make you double
right,
of these cobblers.
right.
Uh, question number 7. Do you have any pets?
I do not. I refuse to have pets. I love dogs. I love cats. But I don't want the responsibility of having one. My kids are a lot.
I
and
feel you. I feel it. I'm sure
I
your
want
kids are like, please, dad, let's get a
right.
pet.
Well, they haven't got to that age yet, but like every time they see them kind of at the park or we go to a playground, they're like, "Oh, dog, cat, or something." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I mean, if they let you play with them, because I ain't ever get one.
Enjoy it here. When we
Yeah,
get home, this is it.
yeah. Uh-uh.
Question number 9. What do you do outside of MMA?
Outside of MMA, I just hang out with family. I also play Fortnite with my friends and talk shit. But yeah, that's about it.
Question number 9. A favorite movie or TV show of all time?
Oh man, I'm gonna say Blue Streak. Blue Streak with
Ooh,
Martin Lawrence. My favorite.
alrighty.
Yeah.
And last question, question number 10. A celebrity you were most starstruck meeting?
When I met I don't know if he's a star, but I guess he is a star. Demetrius Johnson. I met Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah.
I talked with him and hang out with him after his fight backstage and stuff, and that was pretty fun.
Nice, nice. Alrighty, well, there you go. That was our interview for today. Seriously, I want to thank you so much for doing this with me. You have such great energy. So I was like, yes, we got to get this interview, you know? Before we go, please let the people know where they can find you and any final thoughts.
Yeah, you can find me at Raufeon Stots, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Yeah, and then just tune in, man, because I'm gonna put a hurting on this dude, and I can't wait to set him up for. He probably ain't gonna set up for too long, but I'm gonna set him up inside these 25 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.